Hey guys, welcome back to As a Man Thinketh here on Yanasa TV. So this is a story that I found a little perplexing. It's one of those oddball stories about a bunch of cows just mysteriously dying on a farm or a ranch. This is something that we've talked about on this channel numerous times in the past. If you've followed some of these stories, it's crazy. You know, what would all of a sudden make a bunch of animals die? So this story actually takes place in Coal Creek, Colorado. It's the Higgs family ranch, and they lost 15 cows.
A rancher in Fremont County continues to seek answers as to why 15 of her cows died in just one day.
All right, here's what happened. On May 21st, I spoke with a local rancher in Fremont County about her dead cows. Let's rewind for a few weeks. On May 8th, she found 15 of her cows dead with no definite cause of their deaths. And that day, she contacted local vet to find answers. A week later, that vet came back and said sulfate poisoning is likely the cause. She tells me a testing result from different labs still leaves her no answers as to why her cows died.
So obviously, when something happens like this, as a rancher, you want to know, what's happening to my cows? Why are they dropping dead all of a sudden? I mean, it's a scary thing to walk out and suddenly have your cows just dead in a pasture, especially that many of them. It means that something had to have happened, some sort of poisoning, something, or alfalfa poisoning. You guys remember watching Yellowstone, right? When they drop the bales of alfalfa out of the plane and they land into the field and they kill just a bunch of cows. And that type of sabotage actually does happen a lot of farms. I'm going to talk about that in a second because I think this is a curious case. But in this situation, the vet actually put a hypothetical, well, maybe it's sulfate poisoning down.
Well, on May 27th, the CSU vet released a new testing results, and it says no significant findings on the cause of death. The lab testing was done by the CSU Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory in Fort Collins. It took tissue samples from a 1-year-old female dead cow. The results showed no significant lesions were found in multiple tested tissues.
I don't know what else it could be, honestly.
Higgs contacted the Colorado Energy Carbon Management Commission for help because
the smell on the oil pad was really bad.
On Monday, using optical gas imagery cameras, the ECMC used a drone to check for any gas in the area where the cows died. And now it's a waiting game with hope to have something that could answer her questions.
They've been testing their water, testing their soil, testing their salt box, testing their feed, trying to figure out where these cows would have mysteriously gotten this poisoning from that killed 15 cows. You guys know how much a cow costs these days? Cows are expensive because we're at the lowest cattle herd numbers since the 1970s. So 15 cows is actually a considerable amount of money to lose.
I think it's interesting to note that Mark Hines with Cowboy State Daily just published a story on June 3rd talking about a similar situation in Wyoming that happened on Clint Snook's ranch.
For Clint Snook, the vexing mystery facing a Colorado ranch family is eerily familiar. Like the Higgs family in central Colorado, he's had cattle die suddenly and mysteriously. Snook, who ranches in Crook County, told Cowboy State Daily's Mark Hines that 2 summers several years back, he had cattle bafflingly fall over dead in a particular pasture, and roughly 20 cows died each time.
We ran that story about the cattle in Colorado that earlier this month started falling over dead and they can't figure out why. So I got a call from a rancher. He said a couple years in a row, about 6 years ago, they had the same thing happen. They had a bunch of cows, he said, just pretty much die on their feet in a pasture that he runs near Devil's Tower in Wyoming. He said there was just a particular meadow where all told about 40 cattle over 2 years just died suddenly. And he said his words were, "I stampeded my cattle out of that pasture and I've never put them back in there since."
A state inspector came and investigated the pasture but couldn't determine exactly what killed the cattle. He concluded it was some sort of plant. But Snook jokingly played off of his ranch's proximity to Devil's Tower and said, quote, "Maybe it was the aliens that did it."
But it does bring into question, you know, could this have been some sort of farm sabotage? Because this is something that we see on a regular basis, right? People are doing crazy things on the regular to attack who they consider to be their opposition. It's been a growing concern in this country for the last, 5 or 6 years. People do things deliberately to attack farmers and ranchers, just like they do things deliberately to attack people at demonstrations. We just recently saw that. Love what you see on Yanasa TV? Get even more on Substack. If you value the real stories, opinions, and in-depth coverage we bring you here on Yanasa TV, you will love what we're doing on Substack. It's our uncensored home for investigative journalism, exclusive updates, and extended content you won't find on YouTube, including early access to stories, opinion articles, and insights into the fight for farmers and ranchers' rights. Join us at Yanasa TV Substack, www.yanasa.tv, and be a part of a growing community committed to truth, transparency, and rural resilience. Stay informed, stay empowered, stay free. Subscription to Yanasa TV Substack are free. However, paid subscribers get even more content, direct contact with us, and more community involvement in the chat section. So this is a story that I'm going to be following, and I'd like to get some more information on here on Yanasa TV. I'm curious about what your thoughts are on this. What could have caused the death of 15 cattle, whether or not you think it could have been something that was instigated by somebody, or if this was just simply a poisoning problem. Again, like I said, they've done some testing already, and they have not found the source of this potential quote-unquote sulfate poisoning. So it's an interesting story. I'd be curious to see where it goes from here. Many of you have noticed that we keep wearing these leather patch hats that say Defend the Right to Farm on them. These leather patch hats support our nonprofit, Meet My Neighbor Productions. You can get your hat at Yanasa Trading Co. and help us defend the right to farm through education, outreach, and, as we've been doing over the last couple of years, farm relief efforts. So get your leather patch hat and let others know that you defend the right to farm.